Welcome to the Dollhouse. I am the doll. This video today is all about how the doll should continue to decenter men until they decenter sex. And I'm going to name some of the reasons why men should consider decentering sex. Of course, we can't tell them what to do. They have to make their own choices, and they may have already considered this. Some of them are starting to have a little bit more discretion with what they do with their body, because sex is fantastic. And if we can honor that as one of the sources of our creative nature and really be specific with when we do it, we will probably have better outcomes as a nation. And I'm not just talking about the Black community today, because we need help all around, America, but mostly, yes, the statistics in the descendants of the American enslaved, the statistics are grim. However, this sort of thing can be turned around with a change in the mentality. And if we can recognize our divinity and the divinity in our power of creation, especially when we come together as the divine masculine and the divine feminine, if we really put more respect on that action and make it more sacred, we will probably have more success. So the reasons why men might consider taking the lead on things and proceeding with making sex sacred again is because of the great unknowns. There are three great unknowns. The first is unknown children. Men can easily have children and not even know that they have a child or a child on the way. They can procreate just for pleasure. And women, we don't want to be involved with men who demonstrate this as a way of being. It's too risky, because you have to deal with child support too, and his income being limited by it. Men complain about their child support burden, and I even saw them complaining to one of the presidential candidates. Robert Kennedy Jr., I believe, stopped by a barbershop podcast with Killer Mike. And I saw this on Paris Milan's channel. The original video showed up on a channel called Blacks for Kennedy. I'm going to play a clip.
And in the world.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of work to do.
So outside of that, I have something that's near and dear to my heart. So, from the standpoint of we talked about, gaining capital, we talked about helping businesses and all these different things. But I know for me, even though you can help a man get money, you can do all these different things. But when it comes to him having a child and getting a fair shake in the court system, if something was to happen, whether you got money or you don't, nobody's exempt from being taken advantage of. So what are you going to do to help fathers have better rights in the court system?
I have to tell you, I have never thought about that issue. I paid child support, and I paid a lot for child support. But I've never, until you brought it up a little earlier tonight, it's not an issue that I consider. I think most it's regulated on the state rather than the federal government. But I would love to hear what you, what you think.
Well, Robert F. Kennedy says that he's paid child support, and it's something that helps keep men accountable. That's his viewpoint on it. But he's curious to know more men's thoughts. And men's rights are important with regard to child support. There are some things that could be improved in the system, just like anything else. However, the way the conversation is being held, it really shows how much men hate paying for child support. So they should stop having casual sex. They should stop doing that and make sex a divine act. And we would have better outcomes. Like, if any party is looking for the formula on how to make America great again, it is starting with families and building the communities and creating a local feeling of responsibility. And the localized feelings of responsibility start at home. Because if you care about your children, typically you care about what's happening in the schools. You care about what's happening in your neighborhood and on the street and with the actual streets, the infrastructure, and the parks. Like, you put a little bit more into it. So I feel as if the focus on uniting and growing families should be a focus for us as people on this channel, at least, the dolls, because, I mean, that's what I'm doing over here. Another reason why men should decenter sex is because of the unknown health risk. Obviously, there's still HIV on the loose. Syphilis is still on the loose. Oh, and the numbers behind syphilis and gonorrhea and chlamydia are alarming for the American descendants of the enslaved, also known as Black African Americans. It's pretty alarming. So for chlamydia, ages 30 through 34, like, the male population has 24,892 reported cases. Of course, women, 23,691 cases. But in the 25 to 29 age group, I mean, the women are just knocking the men out of the water. So, men, you really need to protect yourselves. And women, this disease affects more women because men, it's harder for them to get chlamydia. But they definitely pass it along a lot easier. The numbers for 20 to 24, 102,235 women, and the men, 58,252. It looks like women wise up around 25, which scans with how history works. Let's see the syphilis chart. Syphilis is not as rampant because that is just a terrible disease right there. 30 to 34, male, female, there's a huge disparity with 2,961 men and 787. It looks like syphilis just all around affects men more commonly than women. And then there is gonorrhea. Gonorrhea, it affects men pretty starkly in 2024 range, but at 25 to 29, the gap becomes even wider. So the statistics on the unknown adverse health effects are pretty grim, very unsatisfying to look at, and something that needs to change. Like, look at some of the other numbers. Look at some of the other races, and we're not here to compare and contrast, but just to focus on what can be done. What are we doing? There has to be some policies made locally in your household, because that's all the only person who can really make a policy for you to follow. And that's what democracy is all about, right? You being able to define yourself. So define yourself as a healthy person, a healthy sexual being who understands the divinity of sex. And the another like unknown that I'm just going to throw in that goes along with health risks is unknown relatives, because a lot of people have been born out of wedlock and some siblings do not know one another. So there's a risk that you could be dating a close relative and not know it. And the fact that you guys are so super attracted to one another is because of the fact that you are genetically connected. That's kind of freaky. So it's wise to almost just get a DNA test when you meet somebody you really like. But if you're really holding your sex for divine works of life, then yeah, getting a DNA test and a HIV and herpes and then a STD panel test, getting all of those tests before you consider whatever next step you're taking is wise. Because this can be stopped in its tracks tomorrow. Let's just stop doing this. I see a lot. Okay. So another unknown, the third unknown, is something that's really a relatively new phenomenon. Not really, no. I'm going to say there's always been an LGBT community around the world. There's always been, at every level, there's always been trans. Today's trans can have actual changes physically. So if a man doesn't want to get fooled, he should certainly guard himself until at least he knows if he likes the person enough to go down that road, or if that's what, it seems like unknown genders is a reason to really get to know someone well and understand their life plan before you start mixing it up sexually. Just my take on things, because decentering men, it makes sense because a lot of them have not yet decentered sex from themselves, from their lives. We're at a critical point where the way we handle sex has been the main thing that has changed in our society since it became less destigmatized to get pregnant out of wedlock. I'm not saying that even people need to jump into wedlock, but we have to come up with something else where we're not just jumping into bed, because that's wedlock. When you come up with a child and you have to pay child support, I used Drea Michelle in my thumbnail because a lot of people are talking about her over these last couple of days, because she just got pregnant by a young basketball player. I'm not sure if he's good or not. I don't know his name, but I know that people are saying that one of the reasons she did it was for a check. Well, whatever her reason, if you don't want that, if you are a man who's listening, nephew, if you don't want to be this young man who gets caught up paying child support to someone that he's not sure he wants to be with, then if you don't want that, then don't behave the way that this young man has. You just have a different behavior. And the reason to have the behavior is because sex is divine. It's divine. And it's something that deserves a lot of respect, attention, and ceremony. It's something that is extending your lineage and family. And when you proceed with sex in an organized fashion, it may sound somewhat boring, but the self control really pays off to make the world a better place. And, you know, perhaps my efforts are futile, but I hope that the people listening can relate. And I recommend that women, if you decide to involve yourself with someone and date, it's a good idea to make sure that you have the same vision for what you want from commitment, and also that you line up with your thoughts on sex and thoughts on, um, legacy and health and commitment. What do you both want? Because if you're not really creating a relationship that is going to add something to your life, whatever it is that you're seeking, then you may as well just focus on the divinity within you and your ability to create on your own. I hope that you feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, because I've been being enriched very much by some of the things that people have been saying. What I will say is that I don't know it all. I'm still seeking, very much seeking. So I'm willing to listen. I appreciate you for listening, and I respect your opinions in the comment sections. I might clap back at them, but I still respect you for saying something. And I will be talking to you soon.